Hi, this is Alan Bragwell, and yes, that's a Christmas tree with bubble lights and decorations, all meaningful, all special, like yours, maybe like the one in your family. Today's video is going to be more like a audio blog, so you can have this on. Maybe you're driving, or maybe you're working around the house, and so you don't have to sit and watch the video, but if you want to, you can. I want to read a chapter from my book, Dreams and Hard Facts, that ties in to the holidays. So take a few minutes and join me just as you listen and consider the idea of the power of presence, the reality of presence in your holiday. And I'm talking about not necessarily what's under a tree like this, but presence as in one's closeness and being near, just like God can be near to us. Several years ago, before Andrew, my son, was born, Deborah, my wife, had to have emergency surgery. We went directly from the doctor's office to the hospital, and she was prepped for emergency surgery. There was little time to make phone calls or contact people. This was way before social media, so I could not put out a request for prayer in any particular manner. Later that evening, while she was still in surgery, I remember looking around the room where we waited. I will never forget the people that were there with me. I don't know what they said, prayed, or did for me that day, other than they were right there, present with me. Think about the worst situation that maybe you've ever had to endure, and think about the people that have been there for you, that stood with you and helped you in that difficult moment. Now let me ask you something. Do you remember the words that they said, or the fact that they were there with you? More than likely, you remember the faces and the people and their presence over their spoken words. Their actions spoke volumes. This also works for the moments of joy as well. I think of the new king bowing before the hobbits at his coronation. Reepicheep riding the wave over to Aslan's country. You see, presence is everything. The people are there mean everything. Before there can be actions, there has to be presence. I will never leave you, said the Lord. What a tremendous promise. Certainly there are quite a few topics that could be discussed, and people of goodwill can and will differ on many subjects. Yet there simply isn't any sophisticated way to interpret Matthew 28. I will never leave you or forsake you. Many times God first connects with us through people, situations, places, thoughts, and events. But the ultimate end is to be connected with Him. It's my belief that it is this personal reality of Jesus Christ that moves and motivates us. Not just a concept or a download or a theological concept, but a personal reality of Christ. Presence. His presence. In my own experience, as I came into the understanding, my walk with the Lord transcended and overshadowed systems, denominations, organizations, styles, and associations. I'm not overly critical of these. There's a purpose for them. But their weakness has and continues to be many times the human tendency to place far too much reliance and even faith in those collateral representations rather than the reality of the person of Christ. Certainly He has found by His presence power and blessing in those above named environments. But if those representations be removed, then what? Need I remind you that the primitive church, without a lot of organization, but a lot of organism, without buildings, headquarters, and hierarchies, swept the known world in a couple of generations. It is simply the plain result of a relationship with Jesus Christ and one another, which consequently leads us to connect and relate to like-hearted individuals that share the same desire. I think we call that church. And the early church defined their activity as koinonia, which is also translated fellowship. Another powerful but mostly misunderstood concept related to the presence of God is how there is a sense of rest and peace that can transcend all understanding as we come to appreciate how there really is rest and serenity with Him, versus the ongoing and chronic anxiety, worry, and uprightness that goes with the pattern of life today. One of these expressions is in the concept that's outlined in Psalm 78:57 of what is called the deceitful bow. Back in the days when archery bows were made of wood or wood composite, there was a rule of preservation for that bow so that it would be available and work in the moment of battle. You had periodically to unstring the bow and let the wood rest. If you didn't periodically let the bow be unstrung, over time the wood would lose its integrity and send those arrows in all kinds of directions. What makes a bow, quote, deceitful, unquote, is it can look good, but not deliver the arrow where you aim. We have to rest too. For many, it's hard to do and almost impossible because of life. But we have to rest. If we don't unstring and rest, when we have to hit the target, we won't be able to do so accurately. So what are you doing today to rest? Unstring the bow. Let it go. Rest. Recharge. Do it. I hope you've enjoyed this moment of just reflection and using my tree as a backdrop for this reading. Remember again the words of our Lord when He said in Matthew 25:39-40, When did we see you sick or in prison or come to you? They ask Him. And the king will answer and say to them, Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it unto me.